The new Altenew February release contains stamps, dies, stencils, foil plates, new hot foil colors, and more. I've got a whole bunch of cards to share with you today. So as we go through the card making, I'll let you know what new products I'm using. This video is also part of the Altenew video hop this month. So be sure to go down under this video, look at the YouTube description box, and there'll be all the information for you to learn how to enter to win. But for now, let's jump right into the card making. First, let's take a look at the Build a Garden Blooming Delight set. Here's the stamp set, a large bunch of flowers, and I love that they give you coloring ideas and even colors that you can use to design your card. There's also a die set. It has the die to cut out the flower shape, and it has 3 word dies: sending, hello, and love, as well as 3 shadows for those dies. Then there's the stencil set, and there are several stencils, but each stencil has 2 different spots on it to create with. So I'll show how I use this to color in the stamp set. So first up, I have my stamp wheel, and I have the large floral placed on it, and I'll stamp it down onto an A2 piece of white cardstock. Because my card's going to be A2, there'll be some that would be cut off on the edge. So starting with the stencils, I'll add links to the ink colors that I used down in the YouTube description box below the video. But I used an assortment of inks and an assortment of the Altenew blending brushes, which work really well with their inks, and you can see how smooth they blend on the flowers. So just make sure that you use a black ink that you can ink blend over, and then it won't wash out that black. And then also make sure you're lining up both sides of the stencil so that you can color in all of the image. I love these layering stencils because coloring these large flowers can be pretty intricate and difficult if you're not an expert colorist. I mean, obviously, you can still use the stamp set and try your hand at that, or if you're an expert colorist, go for it. But for me, using these stencils to color in, I get to use these gorgeous flower designs and not feel intimidated by coloring them in, because all I have to do is ink blend over these stencils. So I am a big fan of layering stencils. You can see that I'm using part of the stamp wheel. Each time I lay the stencil down, there's part of the stencil that's on the stamp wheel, and that holds it in place. Now I'll hold the die in place with some tape and cut that out. And then I die cut the hello out of some gold mirror cardstock. I'm using a thin little bit of liquid glue behind it to put it on a vellum shadow. I'll pop up that entire floral design on some foam tape and place it on an A2 white background. You can see how there is a straight line at the top and the bottom where that flower design was cut off because it's a little bit bigger than an A2. I have a sentiment from the stamp set that says "Keep on shining," so I'll stamp that in black ink. Even though my flowers were popped up, I had no trouble stamping it with the stamp wheel. And then I added a little bit of liquid glue behind that die cut sentiment so that I have both "Keep on shining" and "Hello." This next set is called Sunny Sentiments, Stamps, and Dies, and it's a great pattern builder stamp set with also a whole bunch of sentiments and dies to cut out those sentiments. So it's a really unique and great set. These are the Modern Circles Builder Stencils, again, a pattern building stencil. So I have an A2 piece of white cardstock down in the stamp wheel, and I'll place the first of the pattern builder stencil, the Modern Circles stencil, down. And I'm using some fun bright colors today. So for the first stencil, I'll color all of these quarter circles in one color. You could do different colors if you wanted, but for me, I'm going to keep this a little simple for my first crack at this building of a pattern. So the second one, I'll be using all of one color as well. And you can see that it's starting to come together in this unique, modern looking pattern that is so much fun and so versatile to use. What I like about stencils like this is really you could place any sentiment on top and it will look fabulous. And such a fun modern design that is so easy to create. You could have fun rotating these stencils as well, but for this first crack, like I said, I just put them straight down. I have a sentiment from the Sunny Sentiment stamp set that says, "I think you're amazing." And I'm also stamping some of the small images. There are also dies to cut these small images out. There's a small square die and a small circle die. So I'll be cutting out the sentiment and those smaller images. I'm popping the entire panel up, which I cut down to 4 by 5 1/4, onto an A2 piece of white cardstock, and then I'll pop up the sentiment right in the center. And that is what's great about having dies to cut out sentiments. I don't know if you remember, but a while ago there was no such thing, and then everyone started making them, and I love it because you can make your sentiments dimensional. I'm also popping up these small little images in different spots on the pattern. And I love this card. It was so much fun to create. I just love playing with color. The other way you can play with color is using the Sunny Sentiments stamp set. So there are these 2 quarter bits of circles that you can stamp, and then there are also some patterns. I'm starting with 1 in each corner, and then I'll go to filling in these circles and then also putting 2 circles in the center. So I'll have 6 circles total, and some of them will have pattern designs and some of them will just be solid. Here is the other color that I'll be using. You can see how I rotated it for the center so that the top 2 and bottom 2 are the same pattern and the middle 2 are the same pattern. Here we go with those little pie pieces that have patterns on them. So you can see it's very easy to line up. You just place them over the white spot that you've created. And you could also place these patterns over the color that you've stamped. So you can have a lot of fun with this set and create really so many different patterns. It doesn't have to be a grid like mine is. You could just do 2, you could do 1. I mean, really, it's limitless. And combining colors and stamping colors on top of colors with patterns, I think makes this stamp set so much fun. I did cut that pattern down to 4 by 5 1/4 and matted it on some darker cardstock, and now I'm using some dark blue ink to stamp the sentiment "Embrace Joy," and I'll cut that out, of course, with that matching die so that I can pop up the embrace over the left-hand side and the joy over the right-hand side. Again, just so much fun to create your own patterns and play with color. Next up, we have the Sunset Horizon stencils. I'll share a little bit more about this. It's a very cool stencil set with lots of options. We also have the Perfect Mate stamps and dies. It's a chess-related set with some really fun punny sentiments and then all of the chess pieces that you need. You can stamp the solids or the outline. You could color them in, you could stamp them with different colors. I chose to go the traditional route of black pieces and white pieces. Now I'm using that Sunset Horizon stencil, and I'm just using the checkerboard at the bottom. I won't be using the sun until the next card that we create. So it's really easy to create this checkerboard. You just do the one of one color and then sort of flip it and do the other of the other color. Just line it up so that there's a little outline around each of the ones that you've already colored, and that will create the perfect checkerboard or chessboard in this case. I absolutely love this sentiment. It says, "Just checking in on you, mate." It's such a great sentiment. So great for a card just to check in on friends and family at any time, just to say hi and make sure they're doing okay. So I placed the pieces of the chess game onto that chessboard, popped them up, and this is a really clean and simple card, but has a big impact. For the next card, I'll use the other part of the Horizon stencil. Now you can use them together. You could have that checkerboard underneath the sun, but for this one, I'm not using the checkerboard, but I am using the sun and the mountains. So I have ink blended a sky behind that sun. This is going to be a sunset, one of those really vibrant ones. I'm lining up the next stencil to create the sun. Again, I'll have some yellows and then some orange and red just to create that sun going down behind the mountains. Next, we line up the mountains. You can see they are kind of in a pattern as well. So again, that modern look to them, which I think is so unique and so interesting and fun on a card. So once I have those mountains down in the color that I want, I'm using this piece at the bottom of the stencil as a mask to make sure that I can extend the color down a little bit, but not too far down because I want it to get lighter and lighter. So once I have the color extended a little bit, I moved up the stencil, and then I have the large blending brush with a lighter color of blue, and I'll just keep going over it until it kind of blends into that line just below the mountains. I can't believe how easy that is to create. I stamped the sentiment at the bottom there. It says, with every passing year, you just get more epic, which is, again, a great sentiment. So here we have the lighthearted birthday greetings and the lighthearted birthday greetings die set. So there's a happy birthday, there's numbers, and then there's some really nice lighthearted greetings. So I'll stamp and heat emboss the 4, the 0, and the happy so that I can heat emboss those, and then I'll be able to die cut them out. Once they're completely cooled, then they're not going to smear. Once they're die cut out, I can pop them up on some small foam squares, and this is going to take care of a little bit of an accident that I had on the sun there. When I moved the stencil up a little bit, it got some blue on the sun, so I'll cover that up with the happy and then the 4-0 so that you know it's a 40th birthday, and then you get that great sentiment at the bottom. Next up, we have the zero waste Hearts Aplenty foil plate and die. Zero waste means you can use all the little bits and pieces instead of just cutting them out and throwing out those little positive pieces. You're going to use them. Here are some new colors of foil: brushed gold, peony gold, and Kelly green. To start out with, I have a piece of brushed gold, and I have the Hearts Aplenty foil plate on my Spellbinder's Glimmer. I like to tape my foil down at the top and bottom on the back of the cardstock so that the foil doesn't move around when I run it through my die cut machine. So place it down with the color side facing the plate, and then put your clear plate and shim on top, remove the whole thing, and run it through your die cut machine. I'll do the same thing with the 2 other colors of foil just so that we can see all the colors that are available right now. I'll move that plate out of the way so that I can get the platform heated up all over again. And this time I'll use that peony gold color and then the Kelly green as well. So once they're cool to the touch, you can peel them off and then check that out. You can use it just as is, of course, or you can combine it with the die. And I'll show you both ways in 2 different cards. So here is that peony gold. It's a really pretty, like almost rose gold color. I have a sentiment that says keep shining, and I've stamped and heat embossed that in gold embossing powder. I'm going to pop that up on the Hearts Aplenty foil that I did in the brushed gold, and then I'm going to call this a day. This is just a beautiful foiled card with that really pretty gold sentiment as well. For the next one, for the peony one, I'm using the die as well. So I'll line it up, and then I can use this piece as sort of the background. It's got stitched lines around those hearts. The hearts have been cut out, and I'm placing it down on some gold mirror cardstock. I love you infinitely is the sentiment I'll use, and I'll cut it out. Then I'm going to trim down the edges of that gold mirror cardstock so that this whole panel is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'll mat that on some white cardstock just to get that white in the border and inside that die cut. I've taken some of the Hearts Aplenty. You could use these in shaker cards as well and pop them onto the gold behind the die cut there. So just like a die cut inlay, just put a little liquid glue inside the die cut area and then place those hearts right inside. So you get a couple of different colors and a bunch of shine. Can you believe all those amazing designs from romantic to modern? Let me know what your favorite was in the comments below. And be sure to check out the YouTube description box under this video for information about how to enter the YouTube Hop. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Description of, no.